What made the popular kid at the school the unpopular kid? My partner likes to tell the story of how she became the unpopular kid at school. She was about 6 or 7, so primary 2 here in the UK, and a trend kicked off in her class of eating dog biscuits. All of the kids were stealing dog biscuits from home and eating them at break time. Unfortunately, she didn't have a dog and just had to eat normal human biscuits at school. She was ostracized every break time for it. Peer pressure is weird sometimes. He thought it would be cool to bring a loaded BB gun to the school and got the cops called on him by another student. One of the kids at the school lived with his grandma because his parents died. Peepyhead and a group of his mates started harassing the old lady whenever she came to pick him up. Principal was reported this, and they ended up getting expelled altogether. I don't know if they could be considered kids at the school anymore, but I approve nonetheless. She made fun of a girl with cancer, made a joke like, "Why don't you ask your mum to buy you a wig? I can see your scalp." And overnight, she was the least liked person in the school, and 100% deserved it. He recorded himself shoving carrots, cucumbers, and a bottle of hot sauce up his caboose in the back of a van. Then someone found the video and shared it with the whole school. A popular guy in my year peed himself during an exam in our gym hall. Unfortunately for him, the biggest butthole in our year was sitting directly behind him. He immediately stood up and yelled, "He peed himself!" He proceeded to get teary-eyed and say, "It's my energy drink, it's spilled," over and over before the exam supervisor literally dragged him out of the hall. 2 weeks later, he returned to the school the unpopular kid, and kept a low profile for a while until it eventually died down and he climbed the social ranks once more. That is until an episode of The In-Betweeners, a popular TV show in the UK, aired in which one of the main characters goes poopy on himself in the exam hall, and it reminded everyone of what happened, effectively nuking his popularity all over again. A guy at my school got drunk at a party, got naked and inserted his member into a Jim Beam bottle and ran around all crazy-like with it attached, but not having to use his hands. At the time, it was quite a laugh, but it wasn't until a day or so later people thought about how small the opening was to a Jim Beam bottle. So that was basically the end of him. There was one kid in my class who was the son of our maths teacher. He was crazy popular because he was able to help everyone out with their homework for that class. Turns out he was actually snooping through his dad's notes to get the answers. The teacher naturally got super suspicious after a while, so he deliberately made a fake answer sheet. Of course, the kid grabbed it and noted it all down. It was full of wrong answers, so blatant that anyone who even slightly paid attention in class would know they were way off base. The kid handed out the answers anyway, and in an instant made about half the class bomb, and his popularity dropped like a rock as they all accused him of deliberately making them fail. They moved him to another class, and they never had an incident of cheating again. I remember a guy at my school kept on asking to use the restroom, and the teacher kept refusing. Eventually, he went up to a trash can, dropped trow, and took a dump. This was middle school, but nevertheless, folks remember it to this day. And I don't know whether this young gentleman is disgusting or a legend. In elementary school, so popularity was already sort of a nebulous concept, but one boy got pantsed at recess and was found to be wearing diapers. Pretty sure he was incontinent, which has got to be a rough flipping road for a little kid, especially since he didn't seem to have any other noticeable disabilities. Oh wow, this blew up. If I remember, I'll add in the whole little saga of this incident when I get off work. At least the stuff I can remember. So this was in the late 90s, maybe 98 or 99. We were in 2nd grade? This kid, we'll just call him Timmy, was pretty well liked. He was a nice kid, got along with everyone pretty well. For whatever reason, the boys of my class were comparing undies on the playground like, "Oh, I got Scooby-Doo," or "I got spaceships," or whatever. Why? Couldn't tell you. Little kids are flipping weird. So, Timmy was the holdout of the group, wouldn't tug down his pants to show what prints he had. He got accused of having girly underwear, and one thing led to another, culminating in a couple of boys grabbing him and pulling down his pants. Timmy didn't have girly undies, he had on a big old diaper. In hindsight, it made a lot of things make sense. He had carte blanche to leave class to the nurse, he wore baggy pants, and every once in a while the classroom stank something fierce. He got teased pretty badly that day and for a while afterward, though people eventually mellowed out about it once it was no longer the new thing. The story doesn't end there, though. This was one of the biggest moments in my life that I understood what empathy was. One of my biggest childhood nightmares got presented right in front of me. I was a bedwetter, from the ages of 3 to around 13. and not just occasionally, but like every single night. So for most of that time, I had to wear something similar every night. I was terrified that someone would find out and my life would be over. I was already a little socially outcast because I was an odd kid, which only magnified my fears. To my shame, I made fun of Timmy that day, and several days after. I'd call him names, or tug on his waistband, or whatever. It wasn't until I mentioned to my mum about him that I got an earful and a reminder that I had to wear the same thing at night. That stuck with me, and not much later than that, I apologized to him, and instead tried to befriend him. I didn't have a lot of friends, and he had lost a lot of his. Funnily enough, I guess, 7-year-olds don't have a strong sense of loyalty. We were pretty good friends throughout elementary school. I told him my own secret to make him feel better, and I think it did. Though I'm sure he was pretty annoyed since I was such a Dick Cheney about it at first. He was the only friend I felt comfortable with having sleepovers, due to our collective shame. He moved away the first year of middle school, which was a bummer, and we didn't really reconnect at all until early high school where we talked online. He never told me the exact reason he had to wear them, or if he did, I don't remember, but it really seemed like he just couldn't control his bladder or bowels at all. So maybe he was incontinent due to a nerve injury or something. I don't know. But that's pretty much the gist of it. It seriously impacted his social life, but things certainly got better as people moved on. If anyone has any questions, I could try to answer, but I think I laid out as much as I could remember of something from over 20 years ago. Having a set of keys given to him by the school, WTF, I know, because he was one of the really popular kids then, using those keys to break into the school and stealing 30,000 Australian dollar dues of woodworking and metalworking tools. To be fair, the school got what was coming by giving keys to a student. He punched the autistic kid, then proceeded to get jumped by every single guy that saw him in school for the next week, until his parents had him switch schools. Honestly, that's a level of moral integrity that I wouldn't have expected in the schools of my youth. He didn't get a Sega Dreamcast, but I did, so I became the popular kid. I was relatively popular. I was in JV basketball, marching band, mathletes, and track, and pretty much made friends with everyone, until my best friend at the time claimed I pushed her down the stairs and caused her to have surgery on both legs. Thing is, I was at my grandmother's funeral in another state for the entire week she claimed it happened. While the teachers kept us apart and understood my side, none of the others really believed me, except the anime club. They believed me. Go weebs. Only the anime club believes in top 10 anime betrayals in real life. When he was caught taking upskirt photos of girls in school and sending them to his friends, his popularity went from hero to zero in a split second. I think between 9th and 10th grade he was found alone in his car behind the local arcade, beating off. He was called Thumper from that day forward. No idea what happened after graduation, but he has to have some bad memories of those years. When she made fun of me in front of everyone for wearing a yellow shirt to school. It was just a plain yellow shirt and she somehow found a way to mock the color. It was so unnecessary and made her look like someone who was just rude for no reason. Everyone quickly realized that she thought people were automatically on her side because she was somewhat rich, and she just became a joke after that. The unspeakable act. He was at graduation party that I had the misfortune to attend, and his ex, who was also there, was asleep on the couch. He took her upstairs to get her away from all the noise. 5 minutes later, we hear a scream and a, "Get off me!" She comes running downstairs, frantically pulling up her pants, and runs out. She told us what happened after a few days. The guy heard and tried to break into her house. He's in prison for assault and battery. He gave her a black eye while he was upstairs. The unspeakable act, and breaking and entering. She's in therapy, and we are housemates now in college because she goes out with the girl I'm sharing the house with. He apparently did the deed with his dog. Even if it didn't happen, this pretty much flipped his social standing. I went to an all-girls school and there was an all-boys school about 5 minutes walk away. When I was in my final year, the school vice captain of the boys' school was dating one of our grade leaders. Both being 17 and not very smart, she eventually got pregnant. She dropped out and pretty much everyone who knew him at our school hated him. Prior to that, he was very well liked. I thought it was a bit ridiculous, honestly. Pretty sure it takes two to tango. He wore a t-shirt that said, "If you go to Brown University, you're a chump." Unfortunately, many people in the school had plans to go to Brown University, and they shunned him. Whoops, my mistake. The t-shirt wasn't what made him unpopular. It's because he was convicted of statutory, unspeakable act. The guy at my table would play the "no one likes me, I'm the center of attention now" card, as in he would fake sadness for attention, redirecting conversation and drawing the energy from a room. Like the kid who won't be friends with you anymore because you wore the same color shirt. He was quite wealthy too, and would rub it in your face. Here's the thing. These people exist at all ages of life, so you have that to look forward to. There was a girl who was liked by everyone, smart, happy to help anyone struggling in class, and was generally a nice person. But her uncle scammed a lot of people in her community, including parents of kids that went to our school. She went from being well-liked to being bullied, till she dropped out of school. He got into legal trouble because he and his team embezzled/misused $250,000 from the student union. The university kicked him out, stopping paying the annual $2 million to the student union, withhold funds, although that was later overruled by the courts, and revoked the privileges granted to the student union. Earlier this year, they stated that they and students are no affiliation to the student union after 1 year of negotiations. His team was still running the student union because they were re-elected. They brought votes by offering pancakes, waffles, and donuts for those who vote for their party, and had street volunteers that would pressure students to vote for the party. The scandal was revealed by a student party called the Rhino Party back in December 2018. January and February, heads started rolling, and law and accounting firms started getting involved to figure out how much was spent. It was rumored the figure was anywhere from $100,000 to $900,000. Ontario provincial lawmakers passed the law in the summer of 2018. Starting fall 2019, I had the choice of whether I wanted to pay auxiliary fees to support the student newspaper, NGOs that operated in the school, support the student union, etc. That provincial law was recently overturned by the courts this year, so starting next fall, I am forced to pay fees associated with groups that I don't support. He went from being popular to being a school meme. There's actually a lot of bank statements available that showcase what they brought. There was a really pretty girl that was quite popular in my high school. She was a bit snobby to people and sort of rude. I recall one time she threw a textbook at my groin because I was leaning back in my desk and thought it was funny. I guess it kinda was, thinking back. She also liked to make fun of the fact that I was Mexican on more than one occasion. Anyways, she gained significant weight our junior/senior year in high school, and I guess a lot of the popular kids decided to disown her for it. I never actually heard anything, but I recall her sitting all alone at lunch one day. Not my best moment, but I walked by her, pointed, and plainly said, "You earned this." He did the deed with his friend's mum at a party. Let's call popular kid A and his friend B. B's mum was arrested, as she should have been, and B faced torment from basically everyone that knew what happened. Kid A continued to brag about his actions. Eventually, people gained sympathy for B, and Kid A lost his popularity real fast. The pastiest white girl at my school was recorded saying the N-word. Trading a Charizard for a Rattata. He Tindered next to his girlfriend, who everyone liked, told everyone how he would dump her, etc. When I was in primary school, the popular kid thought it would be funny to flush the class pet, a hamster called Nibbles, down the toilet. All the kids thought the hamster would have died. He quickly became known as the kid who killed the hamster. He ended up changing schools for another reason. By the way, the hamster survived. I don't know how pipes worked, but I heard the caretaker eventually found him. The school still gave Nibbles away after that. If you're wondering about the kid, he had bad ADHD or something, like he was transferred to a school that specialized in kids with behavioral problems. He has a stable job as a bookmaker, but that's all I know about him. Also, although we were told Nibbles survived, we never saw him again. All we know is that he was given away to a random family. There is a possibility the teacher made that up, as another Redditor pointed out, and Nibbles actually did perish, and they just didn't want to upset us. A girl in my school had fun times with herself with a Kit Kat bar in the dining hall, and then ate it. The stories you read in this job. Oh well, back to it. Not exactly popular, more like king of the buttholes, but he had a project in mind, bully the newcomer to get some fresh fame for his butt apostles. The target, a Greek exchange student, nice guy but quite a meaty boy, 150 plus kilos, and a wrestler. I watched. No effing way I was getting caught in the middle of a flying fist tornado. And my regret as of today is the lack of camera smartphones back then. Bully C-word got his jaw broken and lost 5 frontal teeth, dislocated his shoulder, and got 3 fractured ribs. Legally speaking, he only defended himself and also played his defense on his weight, blaming the bully of making him lose his balance and by doing so, fell on him. It's not entirely false. Bully C-word got back 2 months later, still suffering from his injuries, shunned by his previous peers, stayed about 2 weeks, and then never came back. She got pregnant at 17, and the father could have been one of 2 guys, both of whom were boyfriends of her close friends, and neither of whom wanted anything more to do with her. My school actually had a really good sex education, and we knew about contraception from the age of 11. Plus, this was the UK where contraception is free and easy to get, so she couldn't blame ignorance or a lack of resources. She tried for the Woe is Me Act, and nobody wanted to be around her anymore. Since a lot of people are talking about double standards, I'll add that both potential fathers were also ostracized after that. They'd cheated on their girlfriends, both of whom were well-liked, and had been stupid enough to not even use contraception when they also couldn't plead ignorance or lack of access. As for the girl in question, she wasn't ostracized for doing the deed or for getting pregnant, really. The primary reason was that she had slept with her close friends' boyfriends, and again, not even used protection. Plus, when she went around looking for sympathy afterwards rather than just accepting she'd done something wrong, that made it so much worse. She tried to claim it was all her friends' fault for being bad girlfriends, and if they weren't, their boyfriends wouldn't have been interested in her. He didn't exactly become unpopular, but my high school's star quarterback recorded a video of himself putting his digits in his butt, and he sent it to a girl in a neighboring school district. The video got passed around and made its way back into our school, and he got socially vibe-checked. But he didn't really lose his popularity, it was just sort of lessened, and he actually became a way better person after the fact. He still never learned that you can't throw bullets when playing indoor football in gym class against non-footballers, though. Threw a hockey stick into the special needs kid's eye socket. He claimed it was accidental only, but was caught bragging about it on his Snapchat story. He then said, his words, not mine, "He doesn't have any hope though, so what does it matter?" The kids needed surgery that his parents had to pay for, as it was cosmetic. The kid moved to a cheaper school a week later. Stopped coming to school. Didn't even do her exams in the end, just sat at home and smoked Mary J all the time. Didn't even work, she just got boyfriends who would pay for everything for her. Became spiritual. Got the Hindu symbol, Om, tattooed on her finger, got dreadlocks, etc. Posted weird photos on her Instagram. It's hard to explain, but she just became sort of weird. I once heard her talking to a bunch of 13-year-olds about how her boyfriend just got out of prison. She also always spoke about wanting to have a baby. This Mary J smoking, non-working, 18-year-old girl wanted a child. In the end, nobody in my school even spoke to her anymore. Even her friends didn't like her much because she was sort of a B-word. She was popular because she was super pretty and smart. It was sad. She obviously had no direction in her life. Her only qualifications are the exams we did when we were 15. Her brother and sister were still in the school. They were basically really nice and the opposite of her. I hope they do well. People found out he was killing animals in super effed up ways. Held a dog underwater until it drowned, ran over a cat with a lawnmower, used baseball bats and machetes. Dude was doing some serial killer level stuff. Now he's in the army. Oh boy, do I feel protected. Got really into astrology, Gemini, Virgo, Cancer, kept on hitting, assaulting people with a metal bottle, and was in general just a butthole that only like 7 people tolerated. I follow her on Instagram and all her stories are memes about astrology. It's the Instagram equivalent of Facebook Minion memes. He kept trying to convert everyone to veganism, believing everything he heard from biased studies because they weren't funded by the government to protect the meat industry. Even though there is a lot more money in producing vegetarian and vegan foods. I mean, he said that milk causes calcium deficiency and autism. Pretty cool guy, into a few different hobbies, and was very friendly. Too friendly. Me and my friends noticed this and dropped him because he wouldn't stop trying to be physical with us. His excuse was, "I'm bisexual," but that gives him no right to touch me. Eventually, he cheated on his girlfriend of several years with the school tramp, recorded himself doing the deed with her, and showed his friends. Within a day, the entire school hated him, and he dropped out, or transferred. Nobody knows, nobody cares, but I know a lot of people that would love to throw hands for what he did. His ex that he cheated on was insanely heartbroken, and led to a very depressing and sad part of her life, but she has gotten better since, as far as I know.